Mr. Randolph, thank you so very much as well for being with us today. I'm going to recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. Now, as you all can see on the image behind me, there are multiple examples of scammers impersonating companies to trick consumers and steal their information. Now, these are real messages collected by my staff, but the links were changed so that we don't inadvertently encourage people to go to these links as well and therefore supporting that fraud. Now, this is a problem for so many industries, from delivery services to streaming platforms to financial institutions to government agencies. And I very much appreciate the groups that are walking in now. I don't want to detract from the questions that I have, but you all know what robocalls are and robotexts are with your devices. I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding yes. I'm sure you're tired of them and you want them to end. That's what this hearing is about. And so if you all have ideas as well, we'd invite them to be submitted to us. So the class or the trip that you're on, we may be leaning out to you to be able to solicit that information with what's happening to each and every one of you. Now, Ms. Brown, yes or no, does the prevalence of texts and calls impersonating U.S. companies negatively affect the ability of your member companies to reach and build relationships with consumers? Your microphone, Ms. Brown.
Oh, got it, sorry. Thank you, sorry about that. I don't know that it lends itself to a clean yes or no. The Chamber is really concerned about business impersonation, fraud, and the texts that you see, but I think, I don't know that we have seen a noticeable harm to the overall business relationship with our customers. Like, it's a part of the package, and I think the Chamber members do a good job of keeping those relationships, but it is a worry. The brand dilution, and for instance, the Marriott case that I mentioned earlier, it is a concern that, the brands will be diluted by this kind of fraud.
And I'll share with you my experience, Ms. Brown. There are some companies, when they're calling my phone now, I will not answer because I've been hit over and over by robocalls from them. There are some companies where they've been spoofed before, but it's not been time and time again, but I'm less likely to answer them, where I'm very cautious as well. Now, that's my behavior. I don't know if that's consistent with others across the room, but when I was asking that, I saw a lot of heads nodding yes. And so we want to make sure that there is that trust that can be established with this form of communication, so I appreciate that. My follow-up is, Ms. Saunders, I want to talk about the impact on consumers specifically. Can you share examples how messages and calls such as these defraud customers and limit access to goods and services?
Was that to me?
Yes.
Yes. We have an example of an elderly woman in Virginia who answered a pre-recorded call purporting to be from the Social Security Administration, that it had found drugs in a car associated with her, and that if she didn't pay a certain amount of money to take a certain number of steps, she would lose her Social Security, and as a result, she actually ended up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings. I have many more examples. I don't know how much time you want me to take with them, but a lot of them are written up in our scam report that's on our website.
And Jeff, what I may do is, if we can get that report, we'll ask unanimous consent to submit that into the record as well, Ms. Saunders, just so that it's part of the record for this particular hearing. So Thank you so very much. Mr. Burku, one of the recommendations in your testimony supports the FTC and FCC clarifications of consent for safe calls. Earlier this year, as you said, Senator Markey had worked on some other issues, but Senator Markey and I had also led a letter to the FCC chairwoman asking the commission to update guidance along the lines of the FTC reinstating long-held requirements for unwanted telemarketing calls. Now, Mr. Burku, you also cited evidence that consumer consent for telemarketing is increasingly falsified. Automated bots and other artificial intelligence systems are using public data to consent on behalf of a consumer for calls they never asked for or do not want. How can industry, FTC, and FCC update guidance to develop standards that would limit the use of automated bots to falsify consent for robocalls?
Thank you, Chair Luján. I think on this issue, I think the courts and the guidance that's out there are pretty clear already. You need an actual consumer's consent, and if it's falsified, it's not consent. So I think those are clear, and if there's any ambiguity, happy to work with you and your staff on resolving that ambiguity, because consumers should only be in the calls they actually consented to.
I appreciate that very much. Ms. Fisher?